Hi, it's Patrick Hutzel from Intensive Care at Home, where we provide tailor-made solutions for long-term ventilated adults and children with tracheostomies whilst providing quality care, and where we also provide tailor-made solutions for hospitals and intensive care units to save money and resources, and where we provide win-win situations for all of our stakeholders and clients. So in last week's blog I talked about, can intensive care at home help with getting our son home? You can check out last week's blog by clicking on the link below this video. In today's blog, I want to share with you a letter from one of our wonderful ICU nurses at Intensive Care at Home as she shares her experience working for Intensive Care at Home. So today's blog post is, words cannot express how much I love working for Intensive Care at Home. My role is not only to keep my patients safe, but to aid in increasing their quality of life. Tara writes, "Hi Patrick. Thank you very much for getting this to me, and moreover, thank you for your very kind words. I remember when Patrick and Kathy interviewed me for almost 2 hours asking patient-specific questions to see if I would be a fit for intensive care at home, and I left feeling like that was the most difficult interview I'd been in. However, I got a call days later with a job offer from Patrick. I was so excited and still feel quite lucky that I was given the opportunity. Working with intensive care at home was my first introduction to healthcare in Australia, and it was the most influential, difficult and beautiful and intimate jobs I've ever encountered. I learned to drive in Australia through intensive care at home, learned to know the Mornington Peninsula, Gippsland, the Melbourne CBD, learned to deal with intense social dynamics of families, and learned that to understand those dynamics comes a great deal of empathy and love. I should just say, as a side note, Tara joined us as a traveling nurse when she first moved from the United States to Australia." Carrying on with what Tara writes, "Most importantly, I learned to care deeply for the intensive care at home patients and families. I was privileged to care for Mary and Ava, Leanne, April, Kay and RJ, Carol and Jeff and her family, and Paul and family, and beautiful little Sarah. I wrote this blog post if anyone cares to read when I first began my journey at intensive care at home. Remember to drive on the left side of the road, Mrs. The rental car employee told me before handing me my keys. I was super grateful for this reminder, as the last few trials of driving in Australia left me wishing there was a universal way steering wheels on cars were manufactured. I didn't mean to turn into oncoming traffic. Last week after my driving session, I definitely preferred four-way stops over roundabouts, and I felt like I was never going to fully grasp driving on the opposite side of the road. Today I drove 2 hours along the coast from Melbourne to Mornington Peninsula with zero complications. I have chosen a job working as a critical care nurse at patients' homes. This means I could travel from 20 miles from my house to 2 hours away in more rural areas. My patients are stable yet ventilator dependent, and words cannot express how much I love my job, and I love who I get to care for throughout my days and nights. With my job role comes an immense amount of responsibility. I am constantly critically thinking of what could happen and how do I respond to that scenario in my head without that red emergency button above a patient's bed, as I'm used to the intensive care environment. There is no rapid response team of nurses, no doctors and no respiratory therapists running to the room to help or to ensure my patient's airway is patent or to help troubleshoot the ventilator. There is me. Although this is what I've signed up for, this is what I sat tall in that 2.5-hour interview with my new bosses, answering specifics of how I would respond in critical situations. The difference of working in the community home health versus hospital is I feel my connection with whom I am caring for now is a lot more intimate. I spend most of my days and nights caring for them and literally doing everyday life with them. I am sometimes their arms and legs, their voice at times. I have to really use my interpersonal skills and pick up on cues, facial expressions and even feelings. I have to tap in and lean into those feelings and grasp them to understand my clients' needs, especially if they're non-verbal. It's not spending 2 days with a patient, then discharging them home and wishing them well. It's literally embracing and encompassing different facets of your patient's life, maintaining their dignity throughout nursing care. It is important to me that my patients have some focus of control in their life, especially if that's been taken away from them. My role is not only to keep them safe, but it is to aid in increasing their quality of life. A few hours ago, I was driving my little hatchback rental car on the opposite side of the road with music blaring, following the coast to Mornington Peninsula. I remember that this is exactly what I envisioned for my life in my 20s, to be an international travel RN in Australia, traveling to coastal areas, taking care of vulnerable people and loving them in the process. Thank you, Patrick and Kathy and all of the intensive care at home team. It's been a true pleasure, and I'll see you all at the Christmas dinner. From Tara. That's really wonderful from Tara, and she has been a great employee, and want to thank Tara here for putting this letter out in the open and on display for everyone to read. Now, if you have a loved one in intensive care and you want to go home with our service Intensive Care at Home, and if you want to find out how to get funding for our service and how it all works, please contact us on one of the numbers on the top of our website, or send me an email to patrick@intensivecareathome.com. That's Patrick, just with a K at the end. Please also have a look at our case studies, because there we highlight more about what we can do for clients, how clients can live at home with ventilation and tracheostomies, and you can look at our case studies as well at our service section. And if you are at home already and you need support for your critically ill loved one at home, and you have insufficient support or insufficient funding, please contact us as well. We can help you with all of the above. And if you are an intensive care nurse or a pediatric intensive care nurse with a minimum of 2 years ICU or pediatric ICU experience, and you ideally have a postgraduate critical care qualification, please contact us as well. Check out our career section on our website. We are currently hiring ICU and pediatric ICU nurses for clients in the Melbourne metropolitan area, northern suburbs, Mornington Peninsula, Frankston area, South Gippsland, Warragul area, as well as Wollongong and Wagga Wagga in New South Wales. For Wagga Wagga, we have fly-in and fly-out options for Melbourne or Sydney-based staff. We are also an NDIS, TAC and DVA approved community service provider in Australia. Have a look at our full range of service provisions as well. Also, we have been part of the Royal Melbourne Health Accelerator program in the past for innovative healthcare companies. Thank you for watching this video, and thank you for tuning into this week's blog. This is Patrick Hutzel from Intensive Care at Home, and I'll see you in a few days with another update.